Today, we're talking all about the digital SAT and all the problems associated with it. With me, I have Anna from SATPrep, who's been tutoring students for the SAT and ACT for over 12 years, helping increase scores and confidence, and she's got some opinions on the SAT that you might want to hear. So Anna, what are some of the problems with the digital SAT?
So there's a couple major problems with it, including the fact that students all get different questions. So your friend might get 3 questions about logarithms, you might not get any questions on logarithms. So it's really not as standardized as you'd like to see for an actual standardized test. Another big problem is that they never tell you how many questions you missed or how they computed your score at all. So some students have even gotten their score reports back where all the bars are at full capacity for each content area, but they still have an 80-point deduction. They don't know what that came from or how they came up with that score, and they won't even tell them how many questions they got wrong.
Right.
Another problem with the digital SAT is that it's an adaptive test. So as you get questions correct, you're actually penalized by being given harder and harder questions. And I kind of suspect that when students are really acing the strategy questions on the reading section, that's when the SAT comes in with these really tough vocabulary-based questions, where it's like, so do you know this random word? Like, they're really trying to push on any weakness that you might have to try to exploit that weakness. Because their goal is to make a test that discriminates between different students, like really differentiates between different students, where only a very, very small select few students are going to be getting a top score. And they want as many students as possible to be in the middle of that bell curve. One of the other problems is that as students are doing these practice tests on the College Board website, College Board is collecting all the data from their practice tests. And they're actually using that to figure out what questions are most difficult for students and which questions are easiest. So unfortunately, when you do a practice test on the College Board website, you're actually helping them make the test more difficult.
Oh my gosh, that does sound really unfair. So how does this make it challenging for you to help prepare students for the digital SAT?
It makes it much more difficult because we just have such a limited amount of feedback after each testing attempt. So of course, after each test, I'll talk to my students about their experience with the test and did they run out of time? Did they finish the sections early? All these basic things. But I'll also try to get a feel for the types of questions that they experience. And it's a really, really wide variety. Like I said, some students get 4 questions about rules of exponents, some get none. And it makes it really tough for me to design a customized plan that's really targeted to individual student weaknesses. It makes it really tough for me to say, here's what you need to work on in order to improve your score. And while students might report, hey, I saw a lot of comma usage questions, I feel like I'm weaker on my rules for comma usage, then we can work on that. It's often hard to have them remember like the extent of what they struggled with on the test. And the College Board certainly doesn't provide us with any of that information.
Okay, so it sounds like you would recommend the ACT over the digital SAT, but some parents and students have a preference anyways. So if a student is gonna take the digital SAT anyways, what would your advice be for them?
Really to focus on time management, especially because the digital SAT has questions that are termed experimental questions that do not count towards the student's score. These are usually the most difficult questions and are really like time waster questions that are intended to get students tripped up and waste their time, so they have to rush through other questions. So the best thing that they can do is to practice answering questions while running a timer on each individual question and monitoring their timing as they move throughout a section if they are going to do a section without timing each individual question. The more that you can stick to concrete timing parameters, the less likely you are to get tripped up on an experimental question that really wastes a lot of your time and costs you points on the SAT.
So Anna, I know that you provide tutoring for your students, but also we're here on social media. So why don't you tell everybody where we can find you and where they can learn about the SAT and ACT?
So you can find us on all social media platforms as SATPrep. You can also head over to SATPrep.com where you can sign up for my email list to receive a free grammar guide. And check back here every week where we're going to be posting new content to help you succeed.
Thanks for joining us, guys.